Diogenes made his point 2,400 years ago when he satisfied himself in public, in the middle of the market, and remarked, "If only hunger could be relieved this easily." And using the same merciless clarity, I'll show you, within the next 13 minutes, why every man who's ever fallen in love with a woman has been fooled by the oldest and greatest deception in human history. By the end of this, you'll either walk away shattered or completely unchained. Picture a man so wild, so ungovernable, that he lived inside a barrel, openly masturbated, and told Alexander the Great to get out of his sunlight. Diogenes of Sinope wasn't just a philosopher. He was a destroyer of illusions. He wielded truth like a scalpel, slicing through the facades society calls virtue. And his main target? The myth of romantic love. Most men never recover from their first emotional wound. They spend years, sometimes their entire lives, chasing the echo of a feeling that was never real to begin with. But Diogenes? He never pursued. He never pleaded. He never bowed at the altar of a woman's favor. And for that, he was the freest man to ever breathe. Let me tell you a tale no one's told you before. In ancient Athens, there lived a striking courtesan named Lais. She was the obsession of the elite. Kings, war heroes, poets, they all vied for her attention, offering wealth just for a single night beside her. One day, a smug young philosopher, clearly infatuated, came to Diogenes and said, "Lais favors me. She smiles when I speak." Without even glancing up from his meal of raw onions, Diogenes replied, "You fool. That smile will cost you 300 drachmas." The young man stormed off, insulted, but a week later, he came back devastated. Lais had emptied his purse and moved on to a richer suitor. Diogenes laughed and said, "The difference between you and a beggar is simple. The beggar knows he's being robbed." And that's the first lesson. Women don't love the way men do. Today's man is raised to believe that love is a fair exchange. Give loyalty and you'll get loyalty. Offer your devotion and you'll receive it back. But history says otherwise. Take the example of Heinrich von Kleist, a 19th century poet who adored a woman named Henrietta Vogel. He poured his soul into letters, dedicated his life to her, and when she was terminally ill, she asked him to end her life. He did. Then, he turned the gun on himself. Her final words? "Thank you." No tears, no sorrow, just appreciation for his obedience. This is the female mind-stripped bear, an engine of hypergamy, optimized to pursue the highest value outcome, even if it costs a man his life. Diogenes saw this clearly. When asked why he never married, he replied, "Marriage is a fool's prison. Why bind yourself to someone who's always seeking a stronger chain?" Every man remembers his first betrayal. Maybe it was the girl in high school who kissed you in secret, then mocked you with her friends, or the fiancé who vowed forever, but vanished the moment someone wealthier appeared. The specifics don't matter. The scar is the same. Here's the truth no one dares say aloud. Your heartbreak was not a mistake. It was a lesson. In ancient Sparta, boys were taken from their mothers at 7 and thrown into the wild. The weak perished. The strong returned as warriors. Why? Because the Spartans understood. Suffering is the only real education. Your broken heart isn't a tragedy. It's your first true glimpse into female instinct. Diogenes said it best. A man who weeps over a woman is like a dog howling at the moon. The moon neither hears nor cares. But what if I told you that same agony could be turned into strength? That the very thing that destroyed you could be turned into a weapon? This is where the soft-hearted leave and the strong begin. There comes a moment in every man's life when the curtain is ripped away. It strikes like lightning, a brutal clarity that shatters everything he believed since boyhood. For some, it arrives in the silence of a cold bed after she leaves. For others, it's in the condescending smirk of a woman who knows she controls the game. But the takeaway is always the same. Love isn't a contract, it's a game, and you've been playing with your eyes shut. No one understood this like Diogenes. While Plato dreamed of ideal forms and Socrates debated ethics, Diogenes lived in filth, laughed at romantic ideals, and watched men beg for fairness. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't bitter, he was simply awake, and that's what made him dangerous. History honors the men who turned pain into power. Like Gaius Marius, the Roman general who, after betrayal and exile, clawed back to power with fury as his fuel. Or Nietzsche, rejected by Lou Salome, who vanished into isolation and returned with Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a work that would change philosophy forever. These men didn't collapse under sorrow. They forged their torment into something unbreakable. Diogenes lived by that same code. When pirates kidnapped him and sold him into slavery, he didn't cry or grovel. He looked his buyer in the eye and said, "What you need is a leader. I'll do it." The man was so stunned by his audacity, he made Diogenes the tutor of his sons. This is the first law of emotional transmutation. Pain is a form of currency. Spend it well. Most men waste theirs. They drown in memories, her touch, her laughter, the way she looked at them before she left. They obsess over unanswerable questions. Why wasn't I good enough? What did he have that I didn't? Diogenes would have laughed in their faces. When a lovesick man once asked him how to get over a woman, Diogenes handed him a rotten fish and said, "Walk through the market carrying this." The man did. By the time he returned, the stench was unbearable. "Now toss it," Diogenes ordered. He did. "Do you miss it?" Diogenes asked. "Of course not," the man said. "Then why do you miss her?" Women have understood the rules forever. They've always been master tacticians, the original experts in psychological warfare. While men waged wars and built empires, women refined the art of subtle dominance, not by brute force, but by illusion. Think of Catherine the Great. She seduced her way to the top, overthrowing her own husband to claim the Russian Empire. Or Cleopatra, who didn't just enchant Julius Caesar and Mark Antony with beauty, but with precise displays of power wrapped in calculated vulnerability. These women weren't villains. They simply mastered the game and played it at the highest level. Diogenes saw through that illusion. When a celebrated courtesan boasted she could make any man fall for her, he challenged her. "Try me." She gave it her best. She complimented him, caressed his arm, whispered enticing things. Diogenes yawned. Then she bared herself entirely. He didn't even glance up from his lentils. "Your body is your weapon," he said calmly. "But I'm not your mark. This is the second law. No one can control you unless you step onto the board." Today's man is drowning in emotional manipulation. He's told to be soft, open up, be vulnerable, and once he does, the attraction dies, the respect fades, and the connection crumbles. Diogenes would have seen it coming. When a man once confessed that his wife lost all interest after he bared his soul, Diogenes gave him a cup of water. "Spill it," he said. The man obeyed. "Now put it back." He couldn't. "So why did you spill it in the first place?" The highest level of transformation isn't about mastering women. It's about mastering yourself. The Stoics called it apatheia, freedom from passion. The Buddhists call it detachment. Diogenes called it living like a dog. No attachments, no expectations, no fear of being left. When Alexander the Great stood before him and asked if he could grant him anything, Diogenes answered, "Yes, move. You're standing in my sun." That is the unshakable mind, not built on riches, not dependent on love, but on a total absence of need. Most men will never reach this. They'll spend their lives craving attention, begging for affection, contorting themselves to win approval, only to be discarded the moment someone better comes along. But what happens when a man wakes up? When he stops chasing and starts rewriting the script? That's when philosophy becomes raw power. There's a moment in a man's journey where everything shifts. It doesn't creep in, it crashes like thunder. Everything you believed collapses, and what rises isn't peace, it's fire. And suddenly, you see it. Every tear you cried, every sleepless night, every sacrifice you made in the name of love. It wasn't really for her. It was for your own brokenness, your longing, your desperate craving to be seen, to be wanted. Diogenes understood that better than anyone. He never begged to be loved, never negotiated for attention. He lived in a barrel, touched himself in broad daylight, and died penniless, yet wielded more power than most rulers. The deadliest myth sold to men is that they must be loved by a woman to be whole. History is a graveyard of those who believed it. Samson, the strongest of all, undone by a woman's betrayal. Orpheus, who braved hell itself for Eurydice, only to lose her by looking back. Even Hercules, who lit his own pyre after Deianira poisoned him, thinking it was a gift of love. These aren't tales of romance. They're warnings carved into time. Diogenes mocked such weakness. When a young man came to him, heartbroken because his lover had chosen another, Diogenes listened in silence. Then, he picked up a dead rat by the tail and held it up. The man recoiled. "You flinch at this rotting carcass," said Diogenes, "but let a woman decay your soul? Here lies the first rule of brutal self-mastery. Not love, not sex, not companionship. None of it is worth the cost of your dignity." Most men never learn. They chase female approval like junkies, constantly hoping this time will be different. "She's not like the others," they say. "If I try harder, she'll stay." They are wrong, again and again. But you have a choice. Stay kneeling or rise. There's a story the academics avoid. One evening, as Diogenes was eating a humble bowl of lentils, a wealthy man walked by and sneered. "If only you'd flatter the king, you wouldn't have to live on scraps." Diogenes didn't even blink. "If only you could survive on scraps," he said, "you wouldn't need to flatter the king. This is what it means to kill neediness." Most men are enslaved by their urges. They need sex, they need praise, they need to be desired. And that hunger? Women smell it like blood in the water. It pushes them away, even as they exploit it. Diogenes understood this more than anyone. When Corinth's most stunning courtesan offered herself to him for free, he simply declined. "If you were handing out spoiled figs," he said, "should I take them just because they're free?" Enraged, she demanded to know why he would insult her. He shrugged. "Because I don't need you." This is the second law. The moment you stop needing her is the moment she starts needing you. It's not trickery, it's not strategy. It's the raw truth of power dynamics. A man who is whole by himself cannot be manipulated. So what does true freedom look like? It doesn't mean you hate women. It doesn't mean you shut love out. It means knowing love is not oxygen. You won't die without it. Diogenes lived that truth every day. He owned nothing, answered to no one, ate when hungry, slept wherever he pleased, indulged when he felt like it. And when Alexander the Great, ruler of the known world, asked what he desired, Diogenes replied with only one thing: "Stop standing in my sunlight." That is the free man, not the one with everything, but the one who lacks nothing. And here's where most men collapse. They hear all this. They feel the fire light up inside them. And then they forget. They fall back into old patterns. A smile from the right woman pulls them right back into the trap, compromising themselves for crumbs. Don't be that man. Be the one who can say, "I'll enjoy love, but I'll never depend on it." Be the one who leaves when respect dies. Be the one who, when asked what he fears, answers with one word: nothing. Diogenes died exactly as he lived, untamed. When asked how he wanted to be buried, he said, "Toss me to the wild dogs. What use have I for a grave?" Even in death, he would not be owned. So now ask yourself, right here at this turning point, will you crawl through life, begging for love? Or will you set your need on fire and rise as the kind of man no one can break? The choice is yours.